2 miles into the sky, tucked away in the clouds, is a mystical land lost in time. Ladakh, one of the coldest, highest, and most remote regions on Earth. This isolated land of rock and snow is home to an ancient culture and rare and elusive wildlife, like the magnificent snow leopard. Ladakh has changed little since Buddhists arrived 2,000 years ago. Their ancient religion still rules this land, where wild creatures protect the people from evil and carry the gods into the skies. In the kingdom in the clouds, there is only a thin veil between the natural world and the spirit world. A journey to Ladakh is a journey back in time.
다스와 성계 난지 공속당 망 성계 난지 촉삭당 발타 주파 난지 자탄도 민고 이게 동만 중화쇼 엄마니 단니 홍시
There are few places and few cultures left on Earth which remain unchanged as the centuries tick away. Ladakh is one of these rare places. This is a barren land of rock and snow and bitter cold. All the inhabitants of Ladakh have had to adapt to life in this unforgiving, frozen desert. The ghost-like snow leopard haunts these cliffs, an animal so secretive, so elusive, that few people have seen more of him than footprints in the snow. Ladakh is an isolated world, perched so high in the Himalayas it seems to brush against the heavens. It is the mountains that mold all life in Ladakh. These jagged towers block the rain clouds heading north. Ladakh is left bone dry, dependent on moisture from melting snows. Ladakh is part of northern India, wedged between China and Pakistan and coveted by both. Border conflicts closed Ladakh to foreigners for many years. Even today, some areas are restricted, like the region near Somorari, a lake near the Chinese border. This satellite photo reveals Somorari's vastness at 15,000 feet above sea level. A Ladakhi poem tells how it came to be. When the glacier forms on the heights, it will give birth to a turquoise lake. Somorari is located in one of the most isolated parts of Ladakh, the forbidding Changtang Plateau. And miraculously, the tiny village of Karzak manages to survive on the lake's barren shore. The villagers' ancient way of life and Buddhist faith have remained undisturbed for centuries, untouched by the modern world. Though there is some farming here, the villagers depend on their livestock for milk, meat, and wool. Ladakh's finer wool is exported for Kashmir, named for the nearby Kashmir Valley. Winter is an idle time for adults, but the children are undaunted by the freezing cold. During the winter, many of the villagers close up their houses and bring their flocks to the warmer valleys. Only 18 families live permanently in Karzakh. Winter lasts for 7 months, and temperatures can drop to 35 degrees below zero. So they spend most of the season in the warmest room of the house, the kitchen. Chawang Dorji is entertaining his family by playing the damyen, an instrument similar to the sitar. The family depends on their one summer harvest to get them through the long winter. Their main diet is butter tea and sampa, a thick soup of barley meal. Chawang and his wife have 8 children, but the older boys and girls are now in the valleys tending the flocks until spring. This migration of men and beasts to the lower valleys is an ancient adaptation to life in the Himalayas. Winter is a difficult time for all Ladakh's inhabitants. Most birds migrate to warmer climes, but these finches merely flock to the lower slopes. The chukar partridge remains at higher altitudes, searching for any tidbit it can find buried under the blanket of snow. Predators often follow their prey down the slopes. This rare white lynx is the first to be filmed in India. The lynx normally feeds on birds and small rodents, but in the winter it will attack a small goat if the opportunity arises. The lynx uses its large ears as antennas to find its prey. Then, the final approach depends on the element of surprise. But this time, the goats sense danger. Their nervousness alerts the shepherd, and the hungry predator gives up the chase. The lynx is hunted for its beautiful and valuable fur and is now listed as an endangered species. While tending their flocks in winter, the shepherds live in rock shelters. This is how life has been in Ladakh for thousands of years. Rock carvings reveal this ancient past, one of nomadic peoples with strong religious faith. The baral, a type of goat antelope, is a true mountain dweller. It can be found as high as 18,000 feet. Grazing in the open, the baral is vulnerable to the most formidable predator of these heights, the snow leopard, which often launches sneak attacks from the surrounding cliffs. The snow leopard is almost never seen in the wild. It's one of the rarest and most endangered of the world's large cats. Scientists have spent months searching for it in vain. They have followed its tracks, studied its droppings, and recorded its kills without being lucky enough to catch even a glimpse of it. The snow leopard leaves distinct territorial markers called scrapes, often punctuated with urine. This is some of the rarest wildlife footage in the world. Our camera team searched for 3 winters before capturing this snow leopard on film. Scavengers like this golden eagle have to relinquish their find when the snow leopard returns to its kill, a yak calf which got separated from the herd. The snow leopard is superbly adapted to hunt in this high mountain terrain. Its magnificent fur provides camouflage in snow and rock, and its body is built for climbing. Adult yaks with their sharp horns and great bulk are too big for the leopard to tackle. The herd comes to investigate the carcass, and the snow leopard is forced to leave. They are led by the mother of the dead calf. The scent of the leopard still hangs over the corpse as she calls to it in vain. The predator waits for nightfall to return. Under the cover of darkness, the snow leopard returns to the carcass. He will feed on this kill for several days, then retreat to the seclusion of the hills. The warmth of spring releases the only source of water in this arid land, the melting winter snows. At Somarari, a crack spreads from shore to shore as the sheet of ice begins to thaw. The surface changes constantly as the warm spring air frees the water below. The seasonal visitors have just started to arrive from the plains of North India. The bar-headed geese set their course for Somarari every spring. The pairs are mated for life. They return each year to stake their claim on an island in the middle of the lake, nicknamed Bar Island. They have the longest wings of any geese, which enable them to fly over the highest mountains in the world. Because of their isolation, little was known of the breeding behavior of these rare birds. Recently, however, Bar Island has revealed a fascinating and complex social interplay. Males protect the nest with threats, and unheeded warnings lead to combat. Mating occurs only in the water. After mating, the male seems to express a feeling of exaltation. Bar-headed geese are legendary birds in India. They're the subject of many poems and a part of the Ladakhi religion. They're the chosen vehicle of Saraswati, the goddess of wisdom. Buddhism came to Ladakh over 2,000 years ago. These stupas are symbolic of a strong belief in reincarnation, an essential component on the path to enlightenment. The ashes of distinguished lamas or monks are kept inside. Buddhism is the center of all life in Karzak. The monastery is the most important building in the village. It is the home of the lamas and a place of worship. Buddhists believe that all souls can eventually achieve enlightenment and reach nirvana. A Buddha is one of these souls. These silver stupas are also reliquaries. To erect one is a work of piety. Offerings for the monks, such as butter for lamp oil, are placed in the temple. The monastery here belongs to one of the oldest religious orders in the Buddhist world, the Red-Hatted sect. Jawang Dorji visits the monastery to consult one of the lamas. The lamas guide all matters of family life, births, marriages, sickness, and today, the planting of crops. First, he offers the lama a gift of chang, an alcoholic home brew made of fermented barley. Jawang asks for the best day to begin planting his crops. The lama consults a sacred astrological book to pick the most auspicious time. On this important day, the whole family and a few friends participate. The Lama prays for the success of the summer harvest. These crops must feed the family throughout the entire year. Generation after generation, the farmers of Ladakh have successfully relied on simple tools, melting snow, and the wisdom of an ancient faith. This is possibly the highest cultivated field on earth. The parak, or turquoise-studded headdress, is worn by women on all important occasions. The Ladakhis understand the limits of their environment and have adapted to a life on the edge. On Bar Island, the disputes over nest sites have all been settled. The preferred sites are in the center, away from the lapping waves. It's the younger geese that get stuck with beachfront property. The late arrivals are still digging their nest pits. This extensive scraping and stamping is peculiar to the bar-headed goose. Sand, sticks, and rocks are used for the bulk of the nest, which is then lined with their own down for warmth. The parents are always on guard. The island offers protection from some predators, but others find their way here year after year. Ravens are notorious thieves. Bold and intelligent, they can accomplish alone what would seem to require a team effort. They use an effective technique of constant harassment. Eventually, one of the nests is left unguarded. The geese take out their frustration on each other. The eggs, so diligently attended to for weeks, become scattered and broken. Another scavenger, the brown-headed gull, has come to profit from the chaos. To a goose, even its own broken egg is a rich source of protein. Some of the other visitors to Bar Island are less disturbing to the geese. The ruddy shell duck comes here to nest and breed in the cliffs surrounding the lake. The coot also lives in harmony with the geese. Great-crested grebes build their nests on water, a raft made from vegetation dredged up from the lake bottom. Grebes are clumsy out of the water, and this is about all the land they'll ever set foot on. The male and female share all the chores of parenthood, but on this calm spring day, it's just a matter of waiting. Chawang and his wife are channeling the snowmelt to their fields through an intricate system of canals. Ladakhis are still farming their desert without any modern technology. The water of landlocked Somarari is useless to the people of Karzakh. It's too salty to drink or use in their fields. After prayers, school begins. Literacy is important to the Ladakhi people. Even in the smallest of villages, education is provided up to the 8th grade. The children usually carry quite a heavy course load, math, science, and 2 Indian languages in addition to their native tongue, Bodhi. This is no easy task. Each language has a different alphabet. Many villages, like Karzakh, have no school building. Today, they meet in a sheep pen. The shepherds with their flocks are returning for the summer. After 300 years, a section of the monastery needs rebuilding. Cooperative effort is an ancient tradition in Karzakh. Most people have trouble simply breathing at this high altitude. much less carrying 165 pounds on their backs. The air here contains only half the amount of oxygen found at sea level. But the Ladakhis have adapted. Scientists have found that the blood of the people in this region can actually capture and carry more oxygen than the blood of lowlanders. In Ladakh, only a thin veil separates the natural from the spirit world. It's now midsummer, but still quite cold at Somarari. Goose down provides excellent insulation against the winds and driving sleet. The lake can become quite rough in a summer storm. Gale-force winds and torrential rains threaten the grebe's floating nest. The female grebe remains stalwart against the storm, while the male tries desperately to buttress the nest against the swells. But the buffeting waves of Somarari are too strong, and the grebes are forced to abandon their nest. Finally, the storm begins to abate and the surging waters subside. On Bar Island, the inexperienced geese nesting at the water's edge have also suffered losses. As calm returns, the grebes are ready to try again. The geese try to steal material from the grebe's new nest. The grebes retaliate with a submarine attack. The rebuilding continues at the monastery as well. The villagers enjoy the summer sun, enabling them to shed their heavy clothes. A hill close to the monastery is the home of Lato, the guardian deity of the village. Once a year, the villagers and the llamas visit Lato, seeking protection against evil spirits. The procession continues out onto the cultivated fields, asking for a blessing on the growing crops. Crops are not the only things growing on the edge of the village. The bar-headed geese chicks have just begun to hatch. Stray chicks get a quick send-off as they search for their nest. A lost chick is in serious danger. Some of the chicks never find their own nest. They become fatigued and weak and are eventually killed by the intolerant adults. The parents bring their chicks into the lake when they're only 1 or 2 days old. Summer is the season when mosquitoes breed. The swarms are a nuisance for some, food for others. The great crested grebes have been successful with their second clutch. The chicks will spend their first few weeks riding around on their parents' back. Getting into position isn't easy, but they encourage the youngsters by raising their wings. In the water, they spread their legs and flatten themselves like a low pier to help the youngsters climb aboard. Grebes have a strange habit of feeding their feathers to their young. The reason for this is still a mystery, though the feathers may help pass fish bones through the intestines. The ruddy shelduck has also managed to rear a family. The barley in the village fields is just about ready for harvest. Scarecrows are set up to keep out the geese, but many raid the crops anyway. Buddhists do not believe in harming any living creature. For millennia, the bar-headed geese have been feeding in the fields of Karzat with impunity. There's also a pea crop, though the summer is too short for the pods to ripen. The villagers don't eat them, but use them as fodder. The plants are stored on the roofs of houses, outdoor refrigerators. The atmosphere is so dry and cold that food can be preserved by simply exposing it to the air. The monasteries often hold their annual festivals at harvest time. Paintings of Buddha, called tankas, are hung in the courtyard. The Lama spins a giant prayer wheel, each turn sending a prayer to the heavens. Prayers are inked into colored cloth as well. The prayer flags are then wrapped onto a tall pole and raised high above the courtyard. These prayers are carried to heaven by the wind. The highlight of the festival is the unveiling of the largest tanka, which is only brought out once a year. The image of Buddha is sacred, and mothers bring their children to obtain a blessing by touching it. The lamas prepare their ceremonial masks, relics of the old Bon faith, a religion of spirits and demons that preceded Buddhism here. The masks represent the forces of good and evil. Chawang and his family feel the drama of the dance. Evil spirits are called into an effigy of a human, which is then slain, a ritual triumph of good over evil. After 2 days, the village returns to normal. It's now time to prepare for the long winter ahead. The flocks are moved back to the lower valleys. Well camouflaged, the snow leopard will follow them. The goats are a great temptation. The snow leopard approaches the herd from behind the knoll. Catching a glimpse of the leopard, the shepherd yells and throws stones to keep it away. But the leopard has made his kill. Like all leopards, he drags the carcass away to feed in seclusion. Snow leopards once roamed an enormous area, perhaps 500,000 square miles of inner Asia. The fur trade, which decimated their population, has been greatly reduced, but the snow leopards are still threatened by habitat loss and by shepherds protecting their flocks. Today, they're listed as an endangered species. But some poaching still continues. About a dozen skins are smuggled out of Ladakh each year. A snow leopard coat can bring as much as $60,000 on the black market. The Chinese will even buy the bones as an ingredient for aphrodisiacs. This male leopard has just finished feeding on his favorite prey, the varroa. But there's plenty left for the scavengers. A lammergeier vulture, the infamous bone breaker of the Himalayas, zeroes in on the carcass. The griffin vulture is smaller, but aggressive. The bloated snow leopard leaves them to fight over the remains of his kill. The two vultures have different diets: bones for the lammergeier, flesh for the griffin. This young lammergeier is learning how to cope with its diet, but the adult neatly severs the bones at the joint and swallows them whole. As the lake begins to freeze again, the villagers gather firewood for the winter from the valleys. The young geese are as big as their parents now and strong enough for the difficult flight back over the Himalayas on the return trip to the plains. These graceful geese are the swans of India that carry Saraswati into the skies. To some, Ladakh is bleak, desolate, and forbidding. To others, it's a place of sublime tranquility, compassion, and enlightenment.
See what it's like to have a missing child on The Nature of Things, next at 9 here on Channel 36.